Hello from Gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and this is my video on the pros and cons of cutting Cattleya sheaths. So this is Cattleya purpurata, and I featured this in a previous video, the one called Meet the Parents, in which I talked about my favourite Cattleya, CG rubbling, and this is one of its parents. It's Cattleya purpurata. Now this one came into sheath last October, but only now it's in flower, and it really is lovely, isn't it? The flowers are big and glorious, and they open white, and then as they mature they get pink tinges in them. And I'm very pleased that I have a pink one of these, because CG rubbling is kind of purpley blue, so it's nice to have both colours. Anyway, back to the sheath thing. And if we have a look here at this particular plant, to kind of illustrate something before I go into the pros and cons in any more detail, we can see that this sheath here has been cut. I cut it across the top there, and this sheath down here was not cut. You see how it doesn't have a straight line across the top, it just comes up here. So what has happened is the flower bloom came up and broke through, and out came the flower. Okay, now there's a lot of talk about whether or not it's a good thing to cut Cattleya sheaths, and there are many reasons not to do it. And the first and foremost reason is that the sheath offers some protection to the flower. So if you cut it and something drips in, then it's going to ruin your bud. Now one year I had Cattleya Bob Betts underneath my vandas, and I'd cut the sheath and I left the vandas dripping, and the water dripped into the sheath and spoilt my bud. So that's a good reason not to cut the sheaths. But here I'm going to show you a reason to cut the sheaths, and I think it's to do with this particular plant. So I would say for purpurata that cutting the sheaths is a good idea. Now, because this plant came into spike last October, I took my eye off the ball and I didn't realise it was about to flower, and I forgot to cut the sheath in time, and this one here burst through. And if we look carefully here, you can see what's happened. The stem of the flower has gone all concertina-like in an attempt to burst through the sheath. Now that could have been fatal. It could have ruined the flower. The flower might have been mushed. Luckily it wasn't. Now when I saw this was going on, I quickly cut the sheath of the second one over here, and this is opened correctly, and you can see that I've then later slit the sheath there, but you can see that the stem is straight and correct, and the flowers have come out beautifully. So with this plant I'll certainly be cutting the sheaths in future. Now when you cut the sheath, what you need to do is make sure that you have a sheath, that you can see a darkness inside the sheath which indicates there is a bud, and you need to know which kind of Cattleya it is. So for example, with this one that comes into sheath like months before it's going to bloom, it would be a very bad idea to cut it the minute you see that darkness. So if I'd cut this back in October, you know, the buds would have gone months without protection. So it's best to leave it kind of till the last minute. Unfortunately, in this particular case, I took my eye off the ball and left it a bit too late. So wait until you see the darkness in the sheath that indicates there is a bud, and you need to know what kind of Cattleya you have, whether it's one that's going to be in sheath for a long time before it opens, or that it's one that's going to, you know, that's going to burst out very soon. And what I would suggest whenever I get, well, for me anyway, whenever I get a new Cattleya, if I don't know what it's going to do, I cut the sheath anyway, as soon as I see the darkness indicating that there is a bud. Okay, but that's just my take on cutting Cattleya sheaths, and here is a good reason why you might want to do it. And just while we're here in this neck of the woods, I'll just show you these hardy orchids behind me, and these are just lovely, aren't they? This is Dactylorhiza, They're both Dactylorhiza. Now this is supposed to be Dactylorhiza maculata, and the Greg's name is supposed to be Kilmarnock, which is an Irish place name. It's not in the orchid register, but well, that doesn't mean it's not correct. So maculata Kilmarnock, and this one over here is meant to be Dactylorhiza fuchsii timpani giant, also not in the register. Now, as far as I can make out, they both look pretty similar. They're gorgeous anyway, and I'm very happy to have them because they're tall and they're upright, and I don't have to do a thing with them except cut them back. They seem to like my stony soil. So that's my video on the pros and cons of cutting Cattleya Sheaths. I hope you found it useful and interesting, and if so, please do subscribe to me and check back again for lots more interesting videos. Thanks very much. Bye now.